Hello. In the previous module, I have introduced the concept of business process maturity. In this one, I'll go a little bit more into details of the characteristics of organizations at each maturity level. Okay, but before that, let's remember what the concept was. Now, when we're talking about business process maturity, we're talking about the fact that organizations differ in terms of the level of process orientation and maturity models. There are many, you'll see, define an evolutionary path that takes the organizations from immature, rather ad hoc, inconsistent processes to mature, disciplined practices. Okay, and basically, it's very typical that we're talking about 5 maturity levels here, from initial to innovating level 5. Now, let's see the characteristics of level 1 organizations. And in fact, perhaps you may recognize some attributes that you saw also in some companies that you have been before. Let's see. Now, basically, this is level 1 organization. This is how a level 1 organization would look like. In such organizations, processes essentially are basically ad hoc, undefined, unpredictable, not repeatable, and there's hardly any historical data regarding the process performance. Now, it's quite typical for such organizations to have some individuals who simply get things done by means of what we call heroic efforts, and not by the use of proven processes, proven practices. Now, what are the typical characteristics of level 1 organizations? Firefighting. There's always some sort of attention in the workplace, and individual efforts of heroes are basically the driving force behind the success of these organizations. I mean, I shouldn't say success, but behind the reason why these organizations are still there. Okay, there are only very limited scope of BPM initiatives in the organization. There's minimal employee involvement. Also, due to firefighting, you can expect high levels of manual interventions and workarounds, exceptions, and so on in the processes. Okay, how do such organizations still survive? What is the basis for success, basically? So they are alive due to the individual dedication and interactions. So the motto here is that people are our most important asset. Okay, so in fact, you would see these kind of heroic people. Employees often refer others to these type of people when they're stuck with something. Okay, automation, inconsistent and contradictory requirements. Implementation would basically be a kind of mess, if you like. I mean, at this level, you can expect little success in organization-wide automation initiatives. I mean, basically in software implementation or BPM system implementation. The processes are not standardized, so you're trying to implement, basically, you're trying to implement, put something on top of a mess, which is very, very difficult, or let's say the success rate would be very, very less. Will be very little. So I mean, basically the automation shouldn't be the first priority here. Focus more on the focus should be more on the activities at the initial phase of the BPM life cycle are the activities that the organization should be focusing on, like process identification, like modeling and analysis. And you should basically forget about tools like process mining and so on, because the data is not reliable. The data coming out from the process is not that much reliable that you can really perform some good process mining practices. I mean, it's not that you can't deploy, but the chances that the data would really say something reliable to you is minimal. So that's why. So the organization should at this level focus more on establishing repeatable processes within work unit. Okay, so like departments within a department, within their own department, individual projects perhaps, or teams or divisions and so on. So again, work unit. Level 2, managed. Now, the objective of organizations at level 2 is basically to create some sort of a management foundation within each work unit. Again, department, project, or so on. So here the managers try to establish a kind of stable work environment. Okay, so to get control of the commitments. Organizations at this level have started defining some processes, though typically not yet at the company level, but at the work unit level. Okay, so not across the organization end to end, but just within the work unit. such initiatives cover core processes that are critical to that unit. For instance, if you're in an HR department, you start defining a recruitment process and so on, but without paying so much attention on the connection of this particular process with other departments, or what that particular process is across the entire organization. Okay, so you focus on a work unit. Typical characteristics at this level, we start seeing the first process models, not perfect, often done using Visio, often or let's say over the time they get outdated very easily. We see a lot of such organizations around also in this region. Also some attempts for the use of structured methodology and SAM standards, or at least the organization starts to recognize the importance of BPM. Some executives and top management start to appreciate and get involved. How do these organizations manage to really still be successful or basically surviving? So they still survive because of at least the work units are kind of stable, okay? And then they trust on some repeatable processes at the work unit level. When it comes to automation, we still see difficulties, particularly if the organization is large. Some processes are there at the work unit. I mean, there are some processes, the repeatable practice at the work unit, but they're not across the organization. They're not standardized across the organizations. For instance, I mean, in a university, when you see a recruitment process differs in let's say, industrial engineering department and mechanical engineering department. Okay, so, and besides, no end-to-end process exists yet. So there's no company-wide processes, or the processes are not connected to each other. So automation is still rather problematic. Okay, what to do? Integrate, standardize most successful processes across the work unit. Get a single recruitment process, for instance, across all departments, integrate them with other processes in the organization. That's what Organization 2 companies should be focusing on. Level 2, standardize. Sometimes in other sources it's also called define. Now, the objective at this level is to establish and use a common organizational process infrastructure to achieve consistency and standardization about how the work is performed in the organization. You should see most of the processes are defined. I mean, you'll be able to see that most of the processes are defined and standardized across the departments. So you'd see end-to-end processes here. And something that's also very typical is that there's usually a process architecture, okay, or a process map. Again, remember the lecture, in fact, lecture 1, about this particular topic, process architecture. At this level, the organization uses a combination of different BPM tools and methods. A typical indication is an intranet site, for instance, where process designs are available to users via intranet site. You would also see a comprehensive and formal BPM training sessions available in the organization. What are the bases for success at this level? They are the standardized work practices, in fact, which also bring more efficiency, less rework, and I mean, we can safely talk about automation at this level. In fact, this is the first level that we can safely start talking about automation. I mean, the success in the automation is basically much higher than level 1 and level 2. That's for sure. So, I mean, the basic message that we can give here is that do not really try to attempt automation if you're level 1 or 2. Basically, you have to work first on your processes to standardize them across the organization, become level 3, and then start implementing something on top of it, or start really, I mean, that's the time where the success rate of implementing something increases significantly. But of course, we're not there yet, okay? So having standardized processes does not mean that you have the perfect processes or perfected processes. The focus at this level would be on the improvement of the standardized processes, optimization, using tools and approaches for measuring, monitoring, and analysis. For instance, process mining to get more insight on the process performance would be extremely useful at this level, or at least starting with this level. Level 3. Now, level 4. As you might have guessed from the previous description, or the objective of level 3 companies, level 4 is basically is about measurement and optimization, and essentially the objective is to bring measurement into BPM. Right? Measurement of process and measurement of performance, so that you can see if you're doing a good job or not, and so that you can improve and optimize the processes accordingly. So that's why we expect detailed measures of processes and product quality to be defined and collected at this particular level. Both the processes and products are quantitatively understood and controlled, and the management decisions are based on these measures, based on these indicators, numbers that are collected. Typical characteristics at this level, there's no question regarding the importance of BPM. I mean, the BPM methods and tools are widely accepted and used. Also, we see continuous exploration of BP monitoring, business process monitoring and controlling tools such as process mining, again, to get more insight on how the organization actually performs. On the structure aspect, we start seeing formal and dedicated roles, BPM positions, like internal BPM consultant in the BPM Center of Excellence, which is a kind of an internal central unit that supports the BPM initiatives within the organization. And we also see that often see the BPM initiatives to be like centralized or let's say centrally managed. Basis for success for such organization is the deep understanding of the process capability and the predictability of the process performance results. No problems with the automation, besides more efforts to incorporate performance monitoring tools and functionalities. But again, we're still not there. I mean, the issue is optimized processes are fine, but they may not be the correct processes. I mean, perhaps we need to completely change the process, kill it perhaps, and innovate new ones that would support our new business model. It's a business model that we needed to change because of the changing environment, changing market conditions, and so on. So focus at this level should be on innovation. I mean, if you're level 4 and would like to be at level 5, then you should focus on innovation of technology, new business models, new processes, and so on. And that's what basically level 5 is all about. The objective is continually improving and measuring already optimized processes and innovate with respect to a plan, by the way. I mean, we're not talking about kind of an ad hoc innovation, but we're talking also about let's say planned innovation. Okay, that means having teams and practices that focus on continual process improvement and innovation. At this level, process management and particularly improvement becomes a part of managers' day-to-day activities, I should say. We see a wide acceptance and use of standard methods and techniques. We also see that the organization uses a single organization-wide approach to BPM, which incorporates also customers, suppliers, distributors, and others type of stakeholders. So it goes beyond the organization boundaries and integrates with its basically value chain in its ecosystem. Basis for success in level 5 organization is simply continual improvement. Continual innovation. Okay, innovation in technology, I mean innovation in products, processes, and business model. Automation is not an issue. Automation is a must, essentially. But the question here is we're I mean, are we still in a kind of problem-free heaven type of a situation? Not at all. The first challenge is how to standardize new or innovative processes. When we introduce a new process from the perspective of a single organization, we drop down to level 3, basically. I mean, when you innovate a new kind of a process, or when you introduce a new process, that is basically at level 3 at that point in time that you introduce it. So we basically need to take the process back to level 5, start optimizing it, and then continuously improve it. So the continual repeating of level 3 and to level 5 is what level 5 organizations should be doing. A side note here, which I think is quite important, technology is changing rapidly, okay, creating opportunities for the way that we do business. So expect and also plan for processes to undergo drastic changes in every 2-3 years, also due to the advances in ICT, also due to the changes in the market, disruptions in the market, new business models popping up in the market. Okay. Okay, I mean, basically, these were, in brief, the characteristics of organizations at different maturity levels. And in the next 3 videos, essentially, we'll see some examples of specific business process maturity levels. So this was a rather long video module. So sorry for that, but yeah, see you in the next one.